Another episode of Outdoor Ed with Dr. T is on the air here on CPL Radio, and we are joined here today by Dr. T, hence the title of the show.
Yeah, hey.
Nice to have you back.
Yeah.
So what are we covering today?
All right. Well, we're keeping with the winter theme of cold.
Do we have to?
Yeah,
All right,
I know.
fine.
Someday it'll be done with, all right? And then we'll move on to other topics. But since we're still inspired by the cold and the snow and everything that's going on outside today, we're talking about snow spiders.
It's a lot of okay. So you're going there. Well, there's a lot of inspiration out there today. We are in severe inspiration. I mean, it's cold out there today.
I know. Well,
And the snow spiders are happy today.
This is why it's a perfect topic.
You didn't bring one, did you?
No, I did not bring any props today because I couldn't find any. It's too cold outside.
Even for them.
Yes.
Okay, well, tell me about snow spiders, because if there's one nice thing about winter is that you won't get covered in spiders when you're outside, but that's not exactly true now.
That's right. So those of you who are afraid of spiders, just because it's winter doesn't mean that they are gone. Yeah. So this was inspired by a walk that I did. So every month I do a pond walk with the third graders at Parkview Elementary, and they find some amazing creatures out there. And so about a month ago, we were out walking along the ponds, and it was a cold winter snowy day, just like it is today. And they called me back, and they're like, "Oh, Dr. T, come back. We found something in the snow." And I'm like, "Oh, what did you find? It's something dead or nothing, or like a
forensic
speck of something."
evidence.
Yeah, a lot of times
scary.
it's like a leaf. Leaves are cool, but like a part of a leaf, and they think it's some live creature or something. And this time they're like, no, we found a spider. I'm like, what? Okay, so it's a dead spider, right? I go back. No, this spider was crawling across the surface of the snow on a day when it was about 28 degrees and overcast, so not sunny. And yeah, it was definitely crawling across the crust of the snow. And they had a ton of questions for me, like, what is this spider doing? Why is it out here? Why is it crawling around? What is it doing out in the middle of winter time? And I really had no answers to them.
Does it shop at LL Bean to get like a parka? And
It was not wearing a hat or a jacket.
Well,
or any of those things that I told the kids to be wearing outside that day. Yeah, so this kind of spurred me to think a little bit more about why was there a spider walking across the surface of the snow? And so this is actually kind of a shout out to the third graders, because hopefully they'll listen to this and learn a little bit more about what it is that we found. So I did a little bit of investigating into this, and I found out that spiders, when they approach the winter time, like a lot of creatures, kind of have three different strategies that they go about doing. One of them is to die.
good strategy, guys. Yeah, real good.
Yeah. So they lay their eggs before they die. So there's like reproduction that happens, and they have young and
The
offspring.
family name will go on.
Yes, that's right. They all want to, they have their long genealogy. So they lay their eggs and they die. So that's one strategy. The next one is to go dormant. Like hibernation, like a lot of
I do a version of that myself, actually, when winter comes along. So I'm on with that program.
I would like to some days.
Absolutely.
Like last night when it went below zero.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so some of these go dormant. Actually, a lot of the spiders go dormant. I think probably like 80% of the species around here go dormant. So they hide down in the leaf litter, they crawl into protected places, and basically don't do anything all winter.
I'm assuming, do they pack it in? Do they eat like a lot of lasagna or something? Like comfort food before they, go? Because dormancy, they have to, last quite a while.
I know. Well, they got to have some
nourishment,
to make them get through. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of them will try and eat something before. And I guess they would not be, if given the opportunity to eat something, if it came along, they would probably eat it. So it's not like they're completely dormant and inactive for, the 9 months of the year that it's winter here.
Using DoorDash.
Yeah. Where's my delivery food?
That's right. An app.
Yeah. So they go dormant, and then, they just hide out and hang out and scurry away somewhere for most of the winter, which is probably the best strategy.
Good plan.
I'm
Good
guessing.
plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Solid.
And then wait for spring to show back up. But I found out that there is another strategy that some of these spiders use, and that is to stay active all winter long. And I didn't know that there were spiders that would stay active all winter long.
Wow. You better be really active, hyperactive.
Yeah. And we found one walking across the snow over by Parkview.
That is awesome, actually. I mean, what a cool thing. I mean, you wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, then the other thing is, though, you're like, why?
What are you doing here?
Like, why would you do that? And more importantly, what are they eating when they're walking around in the middle of winter?
Yeah.
Like, what is the advantage to this? I have no answers to that necessarily, but it made me think. I was like, okay, well, if these spiders are walking across the surface looking for things to eat, well, there must be something for them to eat then. So what are they eating?
Yeah.
And this is an area that I'm a lot more familiar with because being
Is this going to be gross?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, but it's going to make you
Rats.
think a little bit more differently about winter.
Okay.
So, as an entomologist, I think a lot about insects, and I knew that there were insects that are active in wintertime.
Yeah.
So days like, well, today it's like 14 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It's sunny out. And this is actually not the ideal temperatures for insects to come out because it's a little bit too cold.
Yeah.
So like even the spiders that are active, they're most active when it's like 25 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So a little bit warmer than today, which makes sense because if you're going out in the super duper cold, you're going to be expending a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
So you really don't want to do that because you're going to have to get more food to keep yourselves going. But there are insects that will come out when you hit, 25 degrees, when the sun comes out on those nice days. And so there's a couple in particular that I have seen this winter, or I've had people send me photos going, what is this? Yeah.
Your email inbox must be fascinating.
Oh, it is. Yeah. You want to know what it is? Send it to me. You want to know what kind of insect it is? I'll help you with that.
It's like the X-Files insect version.
I get them all the time. Yeah, so one of them are these snow midges. They're tiny flies, and they get a really bad rap because they look kind of like mosquitoes, but they're not mosquitoes. They can't bite. They don't do anything. They're fantastic insects for fishermen because this is one of the primary diets that fish feed on.
Okay.
So they live in aquatic systems. The larvae do. And then the adults emerge at some point, and then they fly around. Okay. And so there are a couple of species that will emerge in the wintertime, and they'll be flying around. And so I was at River Edge probably a month or two ago, and some people were seeing them out and about when they were walking, and they were like, there's flies flying around in January on this cold day. Yeah, those are going to be midges. So they come out. They must have just been the ideal temperatures, and the sun had come out, and they start flying. And then,
which begs the question: what do they eat? Because they're out, they're expending energy too.
They are, but actually, those midges, most of them don't eat. They don't have mouth parts to feed on. Wow. So there's one purpose that the adult midges have in life, and that is to reproduce. So they don't have that problem of eating. They reproduce. It's a
wild life they're living.
They lay their eggs and then they die.
Oh wow! Okay.
So the only part of their life cycle that's really long will be that larval stage or the young that live in the water, and some of them I think can live for years in the water. So they're really important for aquatic ecosystems because there's so much life. The tadpoles, the fish, everything feeds on them. So you have to have those midges in the water. But once they emerge as adults, it could be hours or maybe days where they would live. So it's really not a long.
So it's like that day, like a late afternoon in summer when you get all those flies that are that fill the sky and then disappear in about 2 hours later.
They're kind of similar to like mayflies. Mayflies do that same thing. They just they'll all emerge. Yeah. So sometimes we get these midges that come out in like pretty big numbers in the snow, and then you'll see them on the snow because they're dark and the snow is white. So it's a nice contrast. So yeah, if you're out and about on a cold winter day, you might see some flies flying around, and that's what they are.
I'm going to actively look for them.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
You should. So those ones are pretty obvious, more obvious, I should say, than the next group that I'm going to mention because the snow midges are flying around. So you're more likely to see them without looking. But the next group, now this is another group, and these are really interesting, and these are kind of crazy. They're called snow fleas. Aha. Snow fleas, yeah. So these are creatures that live down on the snow, and they will come out on sunny days, again, where it's, semi-warm out. I was actually looking today, but again, I think it's just too cold out.
It's brutally cold out there.
Yeah. So snow fleas are a group of organisms called springtails. They're not technically insects. They're really close cousins to insects. But if somebody who didn't know looked at them, they'd say, oh, that's an insect because it's got 6 legs. They're also called collembola. So these are super important because you can get in like a 1 yard area of soil, like any soil, summer, winter, doesn't really matter. You can have like hundreds of thousands of these living in the soil. They are decomposers, so they're breaking down organic matter.
Okay.
So you can have tons and tons and tons of them living there. We don't ever know it because we never pay attention to what's down at our feet. But these snow fleas, or these tiny springtails on warm winter days, will come up to the surface of the snow and start jumping around. And you can see them because they're kind of grayish colored, and they're really contrasting against the white of the snow. And so on the right day, if you look down, I mean, these things are tiny. They're like 1 to 2 millimeters long. You can see all these little creatures jumping around on the snow.
How have I lived 49 years on this earth and I have not come across any of the creatures you're talking about on the show today? I mean, I just missed it. It's terrible.
Well, you only have 49. See, my dad a couple years ago, he's like in his 70s. And he's like, I have never seen this in my entire life, and I'm 70-something. I was like,
I don't believe you.
Yeah, and then he went outside and he's like, oh my goodness, the snow is covered with jumping objects. And yeah, so it's just one of those things, like if you don't know that they're there, you don't look for them and you don't see them.
I'm going in my backyard this day.
Yeah, but today might be too cold. So wait till
cold.
it gets to like mid-20s and especially sunny out, and look in the snow.
That is fascinating.
March in particular, that's usually when I see a lot of them, just because I think maybe that's when I remember.
Sure. And you're starting to get to maybe the end of like the really cold stuff. So.
Yeah. So these are two of the creatures, thinking about, these snow spiders that are walking across the surface, and, what are they eating? Well, we got creatures that are out there that live on the snow.
Yeah, winter delicacies everywhere for them.
Yes. So. Oh, that's right. Doesn't it make you hungry? Maybe not.
See what I can. It's all in the preparation, I hear. So interesting. So snow spiders are a thing. Was this your first encounter, or have you?
No, I've seen them before, but I don't usually see them often enough to go, hey, okay, kids, we're going to find some snow spiders today. It's really one of those kind of.
And here's the other thing. I mean, I obviously spiders, their preferred way of catching dining materials would be a web. Are they spinning webs out there, or is it too cold for that? Because that's something that, I mean, I don't know, expending energy, and how would a web be very pretty, I suppose, if it froze. I mean,
Well, even somebody yesterday had actually mentioned to me they had found a mole hole with some of their students that they were working with, and they were convinced that the mole hole had a spider web across it, and we hadn't confirmed yay or nay whether that was actually true or not. But I'm not quite sure if they would spin or not in the winter. It seems like snow would melt really fast, and that would be a lot of work, and you'd lose it pretty quickly. The spider that we saw is more like a wolf spider, and these are predatory spiders that go out and hunt.
It was a big guy.
Well, yeah, it was probably about a centimeter long.
Chunky monkey there,
I guess in the spider world. But they go out and actively hunt, so they're not, like sit and wait spiders.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'm a sit and wait spider myself. Again, DoorDash.
Right. You come to me. I'm not coming to you.
Don't make me work for. That is fascinating. Good stuff. I have more appreciation for spiders later in life. When I was a kid, I was kind of like, ugh. And now, just. How they go about their business and how they conduct themselves and how important they are cannot be understated. I mean, and that's why I always tell my kids too, if they find a spider in the house, I'm like, no smashing with shoes. We trap and we release, or we put them somewhere. Yes, absolutely. Or we put them in the garage somewhere, because you want to have a spider in the house to take care of your bug problem. It's like, like you don't call Orkin, you call your spider friends.
Yes, I would rather have a spider in there than, a lot of other things.
Absolutely.
And they get rid of all those little creatures that you really don't want in your house.
Absolutely. So we always, at a minimum, keep the signatory,
That's right. So this is kind of becoming the ode to spiders.
I think they're the unsung heroes. So good stuff. We'll go out there and look for some critters, everybody. And but wait till it warms up, because we don't want any hypothermia today. So, well, thanks for coming in, telling us all about snow spiders.
No problem.
All right. Talk to you soon.